podcast starts now. Welcome to the Valentine's Day official Earnestness Bonanza, where we will take questions and answer them as earnestly as possible. The bit has been officially dropped. We will not be funny. This will not be interesting. Period. Point blank. George, hi.
Hello. I was not speaking because I realized as you were talking that I forgot to start my solo recording, but the way I started it seamlessly I said, I'm not going to talk until it's recording. And sure enough, now I started talking, it's recording. When we send this to the various professionals that mix and audio engineer the podcast, they will have no idea that I made any mistake.
Those fools. They'll get that audio file and think you started it right on time.
I do want to say off the bat, and if people are watching on YouTube, because our episodes are, of course, available in full on YouTube, they will know you look professionally lit. I would say movie star good looks. You are wearing an outside outfit, something that you could potentially wear on the street. And I really, the lighting here, even though it's actually very nice out, I'm feeling a little bit Alicia Keys goes no makeup in how I look, like standing in my apartment with the kind of 2:37 p.m. New York light hitting me. Like, yeah, I almost look, it's weird. I'm like, what is it? Because there's nothing specific that I can point to where I can say, oh, I'm unshaven or I'm wearing a stupid outfit. But I do just look a little less attractive than normal.
No. I couldn't agree less. I think you look raw and rugged.
Wow. Thanks. Makes me feel a lot better.
A real classic American man. I just think, there is a power imbalance here that I didn't even...
There really is.
I didn't even realize that, I'm in LA, I'm the one that made things different for us. We're supposed to both be in New York in theory, and I'm in LA. And instead of it being you getting, to be in the studio and me have to record remotely, actually the recording just moved to LA too. Well, and I
don't think people realize this. Since you have moved, every guest we've had has been in studio with you, and I have been at home, as though I'm being punished for you moving to Los Angeles. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why are we doing it that way? I'm like, it could be me. It could be me in the New York studio with a guest and you in LA, but it has never been questioned. And since you moved, I have been, by the way, you got a job and I didn't. So first inequality there. And then on top of that, suddenly it's like, well, it's TGS with Tracy Jordan rather than the girly show with Jenna Maroney all of a sudden.
Oh my God.
And it's, we need a big name. Let's get Sam Taggart.
Well, the thing is, the real reason, first of all, I love this. The real thing is that I don't have my professional microphone here. And so I was like, oh, well, actually, I think it would be easier if I just came to the studio to record. And with that, then it was like, well, if you're going to be in the studio, you might as well get LA guests.
I just want to say, it is so celebrity to think of something that is convenient for you and say, I think it would be easier if XYZ. Like, it's very like, Bulgari lending you jewelry for the Met Gala and you being like, I think it's easier if I just keep it.
Well, it'd be so hard to return. The return process is still
right.
not worth it.
I don't know if I can get to, Fifth Avenue right now. Like, I mean, I can just keep it in my apartment.
Yeah, well, that's who knew?
That's LA life.
That's LA. I live in Hollywood now.
Can I tell you, when I've been having one of those sort of stretches of time where, how you have certain stretches of time when you actually are living your life in the way you imagine you should be living it. And you're like, man, if the reality show cameras were here now, like people would think this was me all the time. Like in the last 12 hours, I did my show. It like went well. Then I went out with friends. Today I woke up, read The New Yorker and went to the gym.
Wow.
And then came back, had a protein bar, and now I'm doing my job of being a podcaster.
Yeah, it sucks when that is happening and it's not being filmed, and yeah, because it's perfect. Those times, I mean, anytime anytime I've had like one of those nights where it like keeps going and you're like, wow, look at me going to this. And then I'm like still awake and fun at the end. I'm like, oh, damn. And it's crazy that only the three of us got to see that.
Totally. Well, two things. It's crazy that only the three of us got to see that. And B, there is something almost sad about it because you say, oh, this could be I have the ability to live this amazing life.
Yeah.
But I can only reach those heights once every 2 months.
Yeah. Tell me about your show.
I have to say, it was the best one of the ones of the shows that I've done workshopping this hour, this was like the one I felt best about. Which makes sense objectively because A, it's the latest one, so I've, worked on it at this point, and B, it is the largest venue I've done. So obviously just statistically there's more laughter, but I don't know, there was something about it where it felt like everything was going right. Like the people that opened were Moss Pericone and Estrophalic, and both of them actually, without me asking, did exactly the right amount of like commenting on what the show was. Like Moss got out and very expertly before starting was like, so basically tonight you're going to see a little bit from me, then I'm going to bring out my friend Esther, and then we're going to get to George. And just something as simple as that, rather than someone coming out and just starting their set.
Yeah.
You're just sort of like, oh, right, this is what it is to be a pro. I've been to so many shows where you're like, have you done this before?
Yeah.
And then Esther then did her set and ended with a song and then brought me out. So people were so in such a celebratory mood because they had just seen a song.
So they were ready to pop off. Yeah.
And so they're absolutely ready to pop off. And then I did the thing, everyone says to do this and I never really have, which is you put your new material in the middle so that it like your old material leads up to it. And then even if it doesn't go well, you have something to land on.
Yeah.
And when I tell you it like worked like a charm.
Yeah.
So,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
People have been saying it for millennia, and I believe them.
So, no, it was good. I will say the last one I did it at Union Hall a couple of weeks ago, and I will admit it publicly, fully sick, not with COVID and not with anything I don't think contagious, but I did do an hour of stand-up while... So, yeah.
Suddenly when it's contagious.
No, it is confirmed. It's confirmed that it wasn't COVID.
Well, how is it confirmed it wasn't contagious, whatever it was?
So as I was saying, I did a full hour of stand-up. I would say 50 minutes of stand-up because I really was running through it because I wanted to leave.
Of course.
And it was fine. I mean, it was fine. It wasn't a disaster, but I definitely did not feel amazing afterwards. And so there was, I would say, a lot riding on this one. I was like, this one really better go well because I need to feel good about myself.
Yeah.
Especially as I record my podcast alone while my co-host is being given the red carpet treatment in Hollywood.
Well, only the best. Well, I was so jealous that I couldn't make it. The Instagram stories looked groundbreaking.
And, they were.
I've actually not seen, I've been out of town for all of them. So it's kind of crazy, actually.
I know. It's actually, we can sort of enter the earnestness part of this episode now. I will say, I was thinking about the fact that you hadn't seen it. And also, I have to say, afterwards, I went to one of our favorite gay bars, and I was with a few of our friends, and I was just like, I miss Sam.
Oh,
I really, it doesn't, there have been now too many nights in a row where it feels like at some point you're going to join, and you never do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I miss you too, George. And I'm coming to town in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
We'll do our singer's residency.
We'll do all our, yeah. But I was thinking that's actually an experience that you don't have with me because you're doing new things that you don't associate with me. Whereas I'm going to places where we went together, but without you.
Yeah. I do feel my thing here is I'm like, I get some recently. I've actually been feeling mentally healthier, and I've actually been sort of enjoying LA as of one week ago. And it's fun. And a big key for me was learning to ride a Lime scooter. That has unlocked the city for me.
It is so. I love your like neoliberal journey with LA, where you're so depressed, and what got you in a good mood is learning to ride the Lime scooters.
Lime scooters. Huge shout out to the Uber Corporation. Grubhub Plus, I wouldn't be here without you. What other companies?
We actually are actively looking for sponsors. So if Lime Scooter wants to get in touch, we are available.
I'm not kidding when I say the Lime scooter has changed my life. I feel so myself suddenly. And I think literally I just couldn't get from point A to point B. And now I can get there. And I'm like, I'm free. I've never felt more free in my life.
Don't you love when the takeaway is the most obvious takeaway? Like, you're in LA without a car, so you're gonna not like it, doll.
It's so annoying that that's all it is. And so, yeah, I also think I was just whatever. But now I'm like kind of enjoying it. And I'm like, what if I go now? My fear is, what if I go back to New York and I'm like my world's different now. Like, I don't see the same joy I once saw, which obviously is insane. And
I don't think that will happen.
Well, it happened. I'm thinking about the end of Lord of the Rings, of course.
Well, of course.
And when,
that people say that's a metaphor for World War II. It's actually a metaphor for writer-performers that move back and forth between Los Angeles and New York City.
Because they go to LA and they've seen so much, and then when they go back to New York, aka the Shire, it doesn't feel right, and they have to...
I can't help but think we are being too funny for an Earnestness Bonanza.
That's true.
We are over. Humor is actually leaking out of our eyeballs when what we need to be doing is being earnest and
dour,
sort of raw, and
boring. Well, and some critics might even say, "Honey, you already are," but I can't hear them because there's no audience in podcasting.
I can only hear me partying. So this is our sort of, I would say at this point, it's biannual. It has kind of naturally, I think, it has naturally become a twice a year thing. Usually we tag it to a holiday of some sort, although we are running out of holidays.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Arbor Day Earnestness Bonanza.
Me too. Or what's the French one?
Bastille Day?
Bastille Day. We have to do a Bastille Day one, and all the questions have to be either France related or sort of like France adjacent. But this is our Valentine's Day Earnestness Bonanza. The Earnestness Bonanza, for those who don't know, is a tradition we've had since the beginning where, again, twice a year, we answer your questions completely earnestly without doing bits, without joking.
Okay, well, let's just start then.
I think let's just start. Do you want to do the Instagram ones first or the email ones?
Email ones and end sort of rapid fire style with the Instagram ones is what I'm thinking.
Love that. So apologies. Basically what I'm going to do is I might not read everyone's very funny and very kind intros because I'm going to get right to the question. Okay. So this first one, and actually maybe I won't say names in case people don't want their, unless they, actually, no. Maybe I will
say first names.
This first one's from Cade. As a single gay 23-year-old living in Chicago working a remote job, I'm pretty much your target demographic. Huh. I'm hoping that this fact allows you to answer my question earnestly. First of all, you would answer it earnestly even if you were a 65-year-old mom in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone in the larger cultural zeitgeist seems to think that 23 is a terrible year, and gay podcasters are often reminiscing on how hard the year is. What is your advice for living through this year? I have several more months in this age. What did you wish you knew at 23? What would you do differently? What did you do at 23 that is funny in hindsight? Do you have any single gay friends looking for Midwestern love?
What?
Okay, interesting. Sort of a
noodles,
a turn at the end there.
Noodles at the wall of a question, I would argue. Not to be critical.
The rest is very like, you're like, okay, like, do you have advice for me as a 23-year-old? And then at the end, it's like, also, can you set me up?
It's sort of okay. First of all, gay podcasters reminiscing about how hard the year 23 is. Not this gay podcast.
Yeah, no, I actually think... I wouldn't say hard. I would say for me, 23 was certainly, there were some growing pains, but I think Sam is on record as saying that his 20s were when he felt most alive and most himself.
I stand by that. And I actually feel like, 23, I think my main sin of being 23 was that I was stupid as fuck and kind of wouldn't acknowledge it and thought I was really, really smart. So maybe you're just too smart for your own good. I'm like, what advice for living through this year?
I mean, here's what I can say. Okay, here's what I will say about 23 is I would say my life from college to now has been a series of ups and downs of feeling like, something needs to work out, and then something in fact working out, and me thinking I'm out of the woods forever, and then inevitably either I stop liking whatever job I got, or I stop enjoying whatever city I'm living in, or something, or I need more money, or I have a breakup, or whatever, and it's just a series of ups and downs. And people romanticize certain ages because it just so happens that that's when they got their dream job, or that's when they got their dream relationship. And in fact, it's actually, I hate to say it, way more random than that.
It's way more random, and also like, I think the biggest mistake of people in their 20s is thinking like really, really wanting to have it all figured out, because it's like, no, you're just not going to. And in fact, if you do get it all figured out, you'll make like compromises that you won't agree with in like 6 years. So just like be comfortable with not having it all figured out is my
I have to say, just on a extremely personal, extremely specific level, like, I graduated college, first year out of college, I had sort of like 2 part-time jobs, neither of which were what I wanted to be doing. And I was like cobbling together just enough money for rent. And I truly was like, I saw other people I went to college with doing so well. And I was like, okay, great. So I just missed the boat, and I'm never going to have a career. And this is, like, I guess we'll figure it out at some point. Then I got a full-time job in tech, and I was like, now I figured it out. Now I'm like everyone else living in San Francisco. Thank God. Like, I almost was a failure, but now I'm not. Then that job ended and was not renewed, and I was like, I'm a failure again. Like, I'm never going to find another job. I kept applying for jobs, kept getting rejected. Decided, okay, I'm going to like go to grad school. Then when I got into grad school, I was like, well, my life is set again. Like, I'm going to be like, this is perfect. I got into this program. Like, I'm set for life. Then I graduated, didn't have a job. Like it, and this is all before I even started doing comedy, which arguably is the thing that set me on the path I am now. And that was like at, 25, 26. So I would say, sort of bittersweet response. I would say at some point you're going to get out of how you're feeling now at 23, but it's actually not going to be the solution you think it is, because there will be more ups and downs after that.
Literally,
you know what I mean?
Forever. You're going to be 34 and jealous of people, and that's not going to make any sense.
Yeah,
and think, am I failing? Did I miss the boat? You're always going to feel that.
One of the questions was, what did you do at 23 that is funny? So I know we need to move on, but what did you do at 23 that is funny in hindsight? I have to say, just like how dumb you are when you're young is sort of crazy. Like, just to think anything from my drug and alcohol intake to just like following someone from location A to location B without asking any questions.
I mean, I honestly think the things that I did that were dumb then, I'm almost still doing. I almost think like the only thing that is different is I think I have like a more level-headed approach to like people and people's feelings, and like being like thoughtful of other people's emotions. I think back then I was just like, I'm doing whatever I want, and that's like valid.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, right, that's not good.
That's a good point. And actually, that's another difference between 23 and later, is that you actually just have more of a sense of perspective.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess let's move on.
This is from Emily, who says, I think we can all agree that the most mortifyingly earnest topic of conversation is psychedelic use. There's no way to discuss it that doesn't make me want to curl up inside of myself like a dying star. Even running this question verged on unbearable. True. So with that, what have your experiences with psychedelics been like? What is your relationship to them? Any memorable stories? What's the most earnest sentiment you've had while tripping? See, I actually like this.
Oh, of course.
question, because first of all, of course, off the top, very correct. It's so embarrassing to like psychedelics, to have fun, to try to recount how that feels. It's worse than recounting a dream. And that being said, I first tried, I did mushrooms in the pandemic for the first time, and I was on cloud 9. And my big takeaway, which is the most embarrassing thing, is I was like walking and I was like, damn, movement is so important to me. I really want to be able to move. And it actually has stuck with me. And now I'm like,
whoa.
Yeah. How about you?
Move. So I don't do psychedelics very often, but I do love mushrooms when I do them. Okay, so I used to do mushrooms with two of my friends. We would always do them together in the Bay Area when I lived there, and we would always go to the beach and take mushrooms and just sit in the exact same place. And then sort of like, I would say our thing was that we would like create a story about, like, we would not move. We would not explore our surroundings at all. And we would just like create a story where we're like on an island and then other people are passing by, and we would create like little backstories for them. And one time we did it like on Christmas Day, and there was a guy that was there alone with his dog, and it was Christmas Day on the beach. And one of us was like, you know, they're probably both missing someone today. And I was like, that is the most profound thing I've ever heard in my life. But that aside, I would say my number one experience with mushrooms is actually not so much in that it has made me have any huge realizations. It's more that it makes me feel, it makes funniness and jokes so heightened that I am crying laughing the whole time, which I know is not an original thought, but I way more feel that part of it than I feel the like, man, we're all in this world together, like blah, blah. I am just crying laughing. Like we lived in San Francisco, and it was like during the startup boom. So one of the jokes we had was that we were all together because we were launching a startup, and Beyonce had said she was going to perform at the launch, but then canceled last minute. And so now we were panicking to see what we can do. And we just like built this story of like, what are we going to do at the launch? And I truly have never laughed so hard in my life. And then most recently, I went for my friend's bachelorette party. I think I told this story on the podcast, but we went to a Harry Styles concert, and I took a little mushroom chocolate there. And we made a backstory about his, I believe, drummer, who is this woman who had really large bangs. And we made a story about how they were so large that they needed to be surgically removed. And the entire concert was a fundraiser to raise funds for her medical bills. And once again, I was like, that is the absolute funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I mean, and it holds up. I don't think I knew going into it that it could be so funny. Like I was like laughing and being stupid is a weed thing. And then one time I went upstate with like Nick Nanny and Claire O'Kane and Dan Licata and et cetera. And we all did shrooms, and I've never laughed so hard in my entire life in a way that I will like chase that for until I am dead. I think like they kept we were like sitting around a campfire, and it'd be like we were like passing around the phone to put on songs, and like they kept putting on like Happy Birthday and ABCs, and I was dying. Like I was like, I cannot stand this. I've never laughed so hard in my life. There was also a point where we were like looking at a mountain and being like, it's so beautiful, and like genuinely being like, it's amazing. And Nick, who's like the silliest person on earth, has never had a serious thought in his life, refused to like engage with it. And he's like, what are you guys talking about? Well, I don't see anything. And I was like, I could not stop laughing at how like suddenly curmudgeonly he was.
So, okay, in terms of not earnest thoughts, but just, you know, everything being heightened, an extremely funny thing that happened after the Harry Styles concert was we were on this waiting for the subway to go home, and so we were with a large group, but only 3 of us were tripping. And the 3 of us that were tripping all together look at this guy who's facing away from us, look at his butt, and we're like, that is the biggest butt we've ever seen. It's crazy that, like, surely everyone must be looking at this insane butt. How does he move around without everyone stopping him on the street and wanting to take a photo of his butt? And so we were like subtly like talking to our other friend, and we were like, oh my God, look at that guy's butt. And she was like, what are you talking about? That's just a normal guy. And we were like, no, look at his butt. And she was like, that's not an especially large or small or weirdly, like it's just a normal butt. And then days later, I was like, man, remember when we thought that guy's butt was so big and Gabby had to correct us? And my friend was like, no, she was wrong about that one. That was like the biggest butt.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are my earnest revelations while on shrooms.
Next question.
Okay.
This one is, actually this person, met at the Eagle last night.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun. I'll read the question really quickly.
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Dylan, who I think is the Dylan I met at the Eagle last night, who said they sent this question. Sam, you've previously talked about getting quiet when you go home around your family. I do the same thing for unknown reasons, but I have a theory. Not to be squiggly, we as queer people, squiggly, but is it that growing up we hide so much of ourselves and personality in fear of being called out or outed or seem gay around them for upwards of 18 years? Is it possible our brains, bodies are so used to this dynamic that we slip back into that headspace? Wow, I love being a professional psychoanalyst. And for me, I'm not sure. I think I do get quiet around my family still, but it's also like everyone's just kind of a strong personality. And I'm like, if there's this many cooks, I can chill out. I sort of like go into that space and I'm like, and also it's my role. It's always been my role to be a little bit of the quiet one. So then when I'm back, I'm like, okay, well, I'm quiet one again. So I'm sure there's some of the gay stuff in there, but it's also just the dynamic now.
Yeah, I gotta say, the gay stuff never goes away.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think and everyone has a version of being gay. For some people, the version of being gay is
a competitive gamer.
A competitive gamer, or that you, when you were young, were insecure because you had really bushy eyebrows, or you were insecure because someone made fun of you for something. And inevitably, when you go home, that part of your brain is activated.
Yeah.
And sort of the best you can do is, I would say, almost, I don't know, like engage with it in a humorous way, like make it into a little bit with yourself.
Yeah. Have fun with it.
Have fun with it. All right. Next question. All right. So this question is from and they say, would you two ever do a game show like The Amazing Race together? I honestly think you guys would be really good at it.
First of all, thank you.
First of all, thank you. I have to say, the only reality competition show I have ever watched with any regularity is Project Runway. And as much as I wish I had the talent to do it, I have to admit that I don't. Sam, I know that you have gotten into Survivor recently, so I think you maybe would be better at answering this question.
So I'm really into Survivor right now, and in a way that feels very new. This is part of my LA lifestyle, and I've never considered going on a show like this in my life. I've thought of it as one of the worst things you can do. And now I'm like, I actually am so tempted and I love it so much that I'm like, maybe I could do it. Because also the thing about these shows is I'm like, well, all these people are qualified. They've trained their whole lives for this. That's a myth. No one is prepared at all. And people are insane and are just like, yeah, I'll go wherever. If it means I'm on TV in this way.
Well, also correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I am, but they are, I assume, cast more in terms of who's more entertaining than who's more who's more skillful. Is that right?
I think that is right. It's definitely more about your entertainment value. And they usually try to cast I also just think they want one person who's skilled for that to be their thing is they're the outdoorsy guy. And then it's the city girl who can't do anything. And
honestly, me vibes.
Me vibes. And so I don't actually know how The Amazing Race works. So I don't know if we would be good on it, but
yeah.
I think.
Well, here's a question. Do you think we would be? I think we would, in fact, at this point in our professional and personal relationship, I do think we would work well if given a task.
Yeah, I think
work well together.
Yeah, I think so too.
However, between the two of us, I do think maybe we don't have as many skills as we could have.
No, if it was
I would say maybe you have more than I do in terms of practical skills.
I actually think we're pretty even, but in different ways. I do think if we're going from a survivor perspective, I think our brains are matched. Let's start there.
Yes.
I think maybe I could do the more physical challenges better, but
Yes.
I think that you could do like more crafty things better. And I like, which is an important part. And
Sure.
because I think I would like die. Like I think I would like starve to death. And I actually think you would be like, I can catch a fish and figure out how to cook it.
Oh, interesting. Well, thank you. Well, I do think if someone were to give me a fish, I would know how to cook it. So maybe that's a valuable skill. Okay, wait. Let me do the one that's addressed to me because I feel like it's sort of timely right now. So this is still from George. How do you maintain a resilience of spirit when working in print or digital media? Spoiler, I don't. Do you constantly think about career changes? I'm an editor in book publishing, and it's a low-paid grind that makes me consider my life choices. It really is a love-hate industry to work in. And I will say now we will bleep your name because I think it is an uncommon enough name that I don't want anyone to trace it back to, since you have said what job you do. And that is a StraightioLab promise that we're not doxing any low-paid book editors.
Yeah.
So this is a really difficult question because, well, okay. The bad news is it is true that it feels absolutely apocalyptic to work in digital media. I will say that literally this week is a 1-year anniversary of Gawker shutting down. So this has been on my mind a lot, and I've been talking to my old coworkers a lot. And some of them have stayed in digital media and have managed to get other jobs. Other ones are sort of like focusing on other things. I feel like I have kind of, I mean, unless something comes my way, I have given up on that being a huge part of my career because, I mean, I have to say, I actually think, as silly as it sounds, it actually seems more realistic to literally be like a touring comedian and make all your money that way than it is to be an editor at any sort of digital media company or magazine.
Yeah.
I also live in a household where my partner also works in media, so it is very like salient in our lives. Do you? I feel like there's no extremely inspirational answer to this except to say, like, don't let the dread be all encompassing and sort of take it one step at a time. And also, like, keep an open mind because a career can look like so many different things. Like, I do think, and Sam, I think you can attest to this, we never imagined that having a podcast would be like a huge part of our lives. And it was almost like a punchline at some point to have a comedy podcast. And then it has ended up being like very fulfilling and very fun and has helped us in so many other ways.
Yeah.
So I think it is always, and I do this too, but it's always a losing game to romanticize what these industries looked like in the 90s and before that. Like, all that does is set you up to be constantly disappointed.
Yeah.
And I think as much as this is a sort of like neoliberal response, because we can't actually control the dynamics that shape these industries, the best thing you can do as a form of self-preservation is like maintain an open mind and like sort of don't think like while maintaining your sense of self-worth, don't think anything is beneath you because it entails like posting Instagram reels. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's a good point.
But at the same time, you know, it sucks. And it's nice to have friends in those industries that you can commiserate with. And I don't know. But I also think like day to day, like it's lucky that you are an editor. I'm sure you work on projects that you're proud of. And I think like it's, you know, important to focus on that more than all the negative stuff. But
Yeah.
I have solidarity and, you know, if it helps, we all feel that way. And by the way, entertainment is in such an insane place right now.
Yeah.
Like it feels truly like no one knows what they're doing and it is not a career.
Yeah.
So the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
Actually, wait, some of these are good. Let's do these really fast. Okay, straight shooters. Sam, cargo shorts or... Oh, wait, this one's for me. Cargo shorts or your Gawker cohorts? I will say my Gawker cohorts. Sam, 12 Angry Men or 12 Hackling Hens?
12 Angry Men. George, Patti LuPone or Girl, Put Your Records On?
I would say Girl, Put Your Records On, even though I'm a lifelong Patti LuPone fan.
Yeah.
Okay, Kate asks, how would you feel if I brought my baby to a StraightioLab Bell House show? He'd have ear protection on, and I'd stand by the door so I could leave if he started making noise. I don't know. I'm sort of like, bring him on.
Yeah, whatever. I actually think, I say bring him. Who cares?
I mean, I think that like, I would not like if everyone brought their babies, but knowing that that's never going to happen, the idea of a single baby is so funny.
And actually, can we bring the baby on stage?
Yeah, and we would obviously have to bring the baby on stage. We would obviously address it. We would maybe do a sort of baptism ritual where we hold him up like Lion King.
Yeah, I want a baby holding contest.
Yeah.
Which gay guy is best at holding
We're going to have
baby?
Everyone. We're going to have a lot. Yeah, actually, I would love... That is a really good idea of having a bunch of gay guys on stage and seeing who can hold a baby least naturally.
Okay, next question.
Ooh, okay. This is like actually a perfect sort of earnestness. Like question 1 and question 2 are very
They are
Earnestness Bonanza questions.
They are.
Okay, do you want to take it away?
Okay, this is from Glorianne. What do you admire most about each other?
I would say what I admire about Sam is his... I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this. I would say you have a certain certainty in your tastes and values that I really admire. I think I am much more likely if someone is like, can you guys, let's say, have on, Newt Gingrich as a guest. He'll be great for the pod. I'll be like, oh, sure. Like that would grow our audience. I think you have a strong set of values and a strong, both like, in the literal sense and also sort of like aesthetic values that you stick to in a way that I admire. Even in I would say sometimes like we'll have people on and my instinct will be to like mirror their sensibility. And I think you're like, no, you're guests in our house. This is what we do here.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I do like to do that. I think almost not entirely the opposite, but sort of I do almost admire the opposite in you, where I actually feel like you're so, the persona maybe is like you're the cold intellect, but I actually feel like you're so warm to everyone and I'm always so impressed with it, and almost like it it like points out how many walls I have up where I'm like, damn, you are so kind and like inviting people in. And it's always very impressive to me. And it like makes me reflect and be like, I should be warmer.
That is very sweet. Well, I think you're plenty warm.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the same email says, what is your dream vacation? What a perfect question.
Dream vacay. This is tough. I actually have an answer. The thing is, okay, this is a dream vacay only in the sense that this one is something I've never done before, and it's something I fantasize about because it seems, and I don't think I ever will do it, and that's what makes it a dream to me. I've never ever done like a winter like ski vacay, and I don't think I ever will, but it sounds like the most glamorous thing a person can do.
I absolutely agree. I mean, the skiing is, of course, beside the point. Like, all I want to do is be in my après-ski outfit, drinking, hot toddy while looking out at the mountain and seeing other people skiing.
Yeah, and then say we're sore from the slopes and we like go in our hot tub, and it's like, oh my God, how fun!
I'll see you in Switzerland.
Quite literally, I need that.
I'm trying to think what my dream vacation would be. I mean, and I'm trying not to go obvious.
Sure.
Because, of course, all I ever want to do is be on a beach. I mean, that is a given. Duh. I want to be on a beach, and I want it to be 50% me reading a sort of prestige beach read, which is a term we coined, by the way, that is really catching on. I want to be reading a prestige beach read, and then the other half is like me sipping a pina colada and talking to my friends and like playing card games.
Yeah.
So in a literal sense, that is my dream vacation. I'm trying to think if I have any sort of more original answer. Here's what I will say. I would love, and I'm taking away pretend climate change doesn't exist. Okay. I would love to just be on a yacht. Like to be just on a yacht doing like island hopping for truly 4 weeks.
Yeah, no, that
Is
sounds
how I
fun.
want to spend every summer.
Yeah, that sounds really nice.
So
Done.
Yeah, done.
Okay.
What was your first concert ever? We have been asked this question before, but why not? Do you remember what yours was?
I honestly think I went to. It's like embarrassing, of course. So there was the band Something Corporate, and then the guy that started his own a new offshoot band called Jack's Mannequin, which was
Oh yes, of course I remember Jackson.
And I was living in Southern Virginia, and Jack's Mannequin was playing in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I went to that. But they were actually and I didn't understand how concerts really worked. They were opening for OAR, which I didn't like, but I went to an OAR concert to see the opener, and it was, saying all this out loud, it just fills me with so much shame. What's yours?
Damn. Well, I have thought about this a lot because this is just a question that people in conversation ask a lot. And I have no recollection of what my first real concert was, but I do have the coolest possible and the most me possible answer for what my first live music concert-like experience was, which is that, as everyone knows, my parents took me to the Athens Olympics opening ceremony, and who performed? Bjork.
Ooh.
And so literally my first, I would say it's not a concert, but concert-like experience in a stadium was seeing Bjork perform at the opening ceremony of the Athens Olympics, which is quite literally the encapsulation of everything that I am.
That's cool. Let's move on.
Right.
We're running low on time.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay, this is from dear listener Griff, who says, for George, with the Olympics coming up this year, I'm curious to hear a Greek person's perspective. Are they a big deal in Greece, or is it just a thing that happens? The Olympics is always like, we are from Greece. So I always wondered if people in Greece are especially invested in them.
Yes, people in Greece are especially invested in them. The 2004 Olympics in Greece was a huge deal, monumental deal, because it was the first time they were back in Greece since the first modern Olympics. Long story short, so much money was poured into them, so much development happened. They ended up being a huge success, but then the crash after that was so major because what happened right after 2004 is that the economy started to collapse. So it sort of holds a complicated place in Greece's modern history, I would say. But yes, people think of the Olympics as a huge deal. If a Greek person wins an Olympic medal, which, doesn't happen super often, it's probably the most incredible thing you can do for your country. I mean, it is, I don't even know what the equivalent would be for a different country. So yes, they are a huge deal. I love watching them. Unfortunately, the politics of the Olympics are really, really dark and grim, and so you have to kind of close your eyes and your ears and just enjoy the show, baby.
Do you get invested personally?
I think sadly less and less as I get older, but I actually think recently, because of the pandemic and because of various other things, I just haven't been in the mood. And I think maybe for 2024, I will be back to being invested. I'm ready to learn about some new sports personalities. I'm ready for some memes. I'm ready to be proud of some Greek people and potentially even American people if I feel like it.
Sure.
So, I'm going to go on the record and say I am going to be invested in the Olympics this year.
I love that.
Okay, Sam, have you been going out in West Hollywood at all now that you're in LA? I know you've mostly been on the East Side, and WeHo can be polarizing, but I'd be interested to hear what your experience has been, if any.
To be honest, I haven't been out in West Hollywood even once. I have not stepped foot over there, and it's not. I just need the right squad. I feel to go to do that. It has to have a little bit of irony to it. Because in New York, I liked going to the big stupid gay bars in Hell's Kitchen or whatever, but it has to be with a friend group, and it has to be this is going to be a silly night. But right now I'm sticking to the East Side bars that I'm used to, because that's my culture now.
West Hollywood can be really really disappointing. I find it can put you in a dark place, and I will say that.
Yeah.
Okay, for both of us, this is the final question in this email. Are there any bits or phrases from the pod that have infected your everyday life or vocabulary? Personally, I'm finding myself saying noinky persoinky more than is normal. And by the way, noinky persoinky is a phrase coined by Charlie Bardet, which means Wait, what does it mean again?
Nevertheless, she persisted. Isn't that what it meant?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Okay, great. So what are, let me think. You know what I actually say that is a you thing? Is I will say totally.
Oh, yeah. And I think maybe I got it from you that I say 100%. But
yeah, we both say 100% a lot. I do think maybe that was me, but
it's hard to tell.
I mean, say that is a big one.
Say that's a big one. There's almost an opposite effect sometimes too, where I'm like, well, I can't say that anymore because I say it so much.
Mm-hmm. I also think both of us a lot will sort of use hyperbole in saying like that is the smartest thing you've ever said, or like that is the most genius thing I've ever heard, which I do like using hyperbole in that way, but it can get old.
Of course.
Right, next question.
Okay, this is from Sarah. Imagine you could get better at something, but it came at the expense of getting worse at something else. What would you get better at, and what would you sacrifice? So this is sort of a monkey's paw situation. Be careful what you wish for scenario. Yeah.
I will say that two things that I wish I was better at. One, I just wish I spoke like a lot of languages. It's something that I just never had. I never prioritized when I was younger, and as you get older, it gets more and more difficult. But like, my dream would be to just be able to go to like France or Spain or wherever and speak fluently. The other thing I wish I was better at is, I'm not even saying this in an insecure way, but just like physical competence, just like being able to run fast and far and being able to lift heavy things and just feeling confident in my physical strength and athletic ability. I think it's something that trickles down, the confidence of that trickles down to everything else. Yeah. Like just never being afraid someone's going to throw a football at you. So those are the two things I wish I was better at. I am trying to think what I would be okay being worse at.
Yeah. This is tough.
This is tough because it also makes you think, wait, what am I good at?
Well, when it comes to practical skills, I have so few. And at some point, it's like not charming. And I wish but there's a part of me where I'm like, I've already made this choice where I sacrifice practical skills in order to like be whatever I am. And I don't know, can a girl have it all? It's hard to tell. I'm going to say something that's very Khaleesi of me, which is going to hurt, but I have to say it out loud. So I over the last year, I played the video game Elden Ring. And in it, people that get really into it talk about like, what build are you? Like you sort of like you can't have all the stats. So you have to focus on like, I'm going to be this type, I'm going to be this thing. And when I started playing, I was really like, well, I just want to be a little bit good at everything. And then eventually I was like, oh, I'm bad at this game because my character is just a little bit good at everything. And you have to make a choice. And so now I cannot stop thinking about people as having a build and being like, oh, I chose like comedy, like silly build, and I'm like horrible at cooking and like fixing a car, but I'm like incredible when it comes to like being charming in a room.
I think related to that, I actually have decided what I would want to sacrifice.
What?
And it is, generally speaking, pop culture knowledge. I have so much knowledge, like almost against my will, that I wish I didn't know and I wish I could replace with other things.
But especially, pop culture knowledge informs so much of what you talk about, I feel.
But what if it was informed by deep historical knowledge and other kinds of life experiences?
Then you'd be a professor.
That's true. I'm not saying I want to sacrifice it all, but I'm just saying like, okay, pick one thing. What if I didn't know anything about the Oscars? I don't think my life would change I don't think that would like make my life any worse.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like little things like that. Or like, what if I never knew anything about which celebrities dated or broke up? I could still know the parts of pop culture that were interesting to comment on, but I wouldn't have to know about, Julia Fox and Kanye.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is I am actively trying to know less about video games. I think there was a point where I was like, this is taking up too much of my skill set now.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, so now Yeah, everything's in New York. I am a person without material goods except for my Lime scooters.
You really are in a video game in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we both sort of answered this then.
Great. Next cue.
Well, do you want to do B?
I do, but I'm not sure how I'll answer it. I don't have one queued up, but it is a good question.
It is a good question.
Do you want to try? Quickly?
Well, yeah. Okay, so A is what is the gayest chocolate, which really quickly, I guess my answer would be like white chocolate because it's sort of trying to do too much.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then it's sort of like to what end? Just have normal chocolate.
It's also like, does it taste different? I've never understood it.
Yeah, white chocolate is very Ava Max, where it's like, well, okay, you are kind of making an impact, but like, why?
Yeah. It's either white chocolate or honestly dark chocolate, where it's like it's like different and being like really like, well, I'm different.
Well, dark chocolate is literally like Oscar Wilde, like gay sophisticate, sort of, I would say it's Truman Capote. Okay, and then B is what is the most earnest thing you've learned from your significant other?
Well, it is Valentine's Day after all.
It is Valentine's Day, so we have to answer this one. I wish I had a punchy answer.
I know. Most earnest thing you've learned. I feel like generally Misha's always been like, I mean, one, he's like slightly older than me, like 2 to 3 years, and depending on the month. And I feel like he has just been like slightly more mature than me. And okay, here's one. I think I've learned more to like trust what I like rather than like follow the trends because of him. I think he has these like cultural touchstones where he's told me about them and I've been like, but no one else I know talks about that. And then like 5 years later, when the trend comes around, it'll be like everyone is talking about that thing. And it's like, oh, if you just trust yourself, eventually stuff will catch up to you. Like there's so many things that he was like way ahead of people on, but not because he was trying to be ahead, just because he legitimately likes them.
Yeah. I mean, I think Matthew is a very deep thinker, and I find it very like fulfilling to be with someone where I'm like excited to hear what they have to say about something, and being surprised by what that might be. And then on a more like way less romantic, way more practical sense, Matthew is just someone who is really on top of everything. Like he is the kind of person that like has figured out credit card points and airline miles to a T, where it's like a mathematical equation that he knows exactly how to do it so that he gets the most out of it.
Okay, another one. Misha's always been like I've always wanted like 1 million friends, and Misha's always been like, well, I'm happy with the 4 I have.
Totally.
And I actually think the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, he's got a point. Like having 1 million isn't always better.
Totally. Oh, the one other thing I will say, which is a smaller thing, is like Matthew, he spent a lot of time sort of working in fashion and being in the sort of reporting on fashion and the arts more broadly. And I think through that, he is just less impressed with celebrity and less impressed with buzz in a way that actually I think it was very helpful for me to see, to be like, I don't have to run to like, I don't know, care about whoever the new person is every week because it's just going to change next week, which is a very obvious thing.
Yeah.
But like, at the end of the day, it's sort of like, it's difficult to reach a balance where you can engage with pop culture and still have fun, but also have a deep knowledge that it does not matter.
Yeah, it's a tough balance.
I think I'm still working through that. Okay, this is from Will. Will says, Sam, I absolutely loved Millennial Hunter. I couldn't get Tubi here in the UK, so I watched it via YouTube, blah, blah, blah. My cool bisexual female northern metalhead housemate and I got a lot of laughs out of it. Honey, that makes 3 of us. It felt like a very natural next step on from Family Guy and Rick and Morty for me, which was an unexpectedly straight reference, almost too on the nose for a guest to pick. Do you like these shows, and what is the story there? Sam and George, what is your favorite cartoon? So Sam, I would love actually for you to talk about the references and the inspirations in making your adult animated feature film Millennial Hunter.
Wow. First of all, thank you, Will. That's very nice. Second of all, I actually did, I grew up watching Family Guy, not not to be. And I loved Rick and Morty to be an alt-right teen for a moment. I think I also I do like those shows. I'm sure they influence my humor. And then like one of the, I don't know if it actually came through at all, but I was like, a big inspiration I kept saying when we were like in the planning stages was I kept saying like Samurai Jack, where I was like, I want it to feel like moody when it can, so that the silliness comes through.
Totally.
And yeah, also it was just like the animation company, they had incredible taste because mostly I was, basing it off of more live action stuff like The Fugitive and kind of like Kill Bill and like revenge, get my wife back style stories, and like silly 80s versions of those. And then they came in with the fun visual ideas. And what's your favorite cartoon?
What's your favorite cartoon?
Honestly, I actually might say SpongeBob.
Sam, I was about to say SpongeBob. That is crazy.
That's crazy.
So I unlike you, I knew everyone else around me was watching South Park and Family Guy and all this stuff, and I have watched some of it, and I do think it's funny, but I was never an adult animation person. But when I was a kid, I loved Nickelodeon, and SpongeBob was like so huge for me. Like, yeah. I just thought it was so funny. I think I'm obviously not the first to say it, but it's so gay, like in just a way that actually I would say maybe shaped my queer sensibility way more than other more obvious things. It's so silly, but also so smart. And you know what else I loved? Fairly Odd Parents.
I loved Fairly Odd Parents.
Loved Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah. I mean, and the jokes were good. I mean,
the jokes are great. Yeah.
SpongeBob, all the there were so many fun visual jokes. Like, never forget when he's like in Sandy's house in the water episode, and it like, the hyper detailed shot of his like pores drying up. It's so fun. It's
so fun. And I don't know enough about what's going on in animation right now to be like, man, it used to be so much better. But I do hope that there are shows like that for kids today, because it's like, I don't know, it's not just like little talking color blobs.
Yeah, everything is getting cheaper, which is frustrating, but
yes,
but sometimes it's not. It's hard to tell. Yeah. But I don't know what's happening in like kids comedy. I mean, SpongeBob's still running. I have no idea what it's like now. I'm pretty sure there's still new episodes.
There is actually another question in this email that I love, which is, what film have you enjoyed talking or arguing about most this year, as separate from the actual viewing experience? I have a very cursory answer that I was thinking about today, actually.
Please.
So I think Poor Things is an interesting conversation topic, because I actually said on I said on the Patreon episode, I had a very sort of half-baked critique that was like, this is a movie made by men about the experience of womanhood, and it almost at times feels like a male fantasy. And I was actually recently listening to a podcast where two women were talking about it, and they were saying how much they hate that critique, because they were like, why is a sexually liberated woman a male fantasy? Like, why is a woman who loves sex and is fulfilled by sex and has a casual relationship with sex, whatever, a male fantasy? In fact, they were saying this. They were like, in fact, if anything, it's a female fantasy to not have, not have hangups and not be trying to please anyone, and to be so fully in your body that you are in control and all this stuff. And I was like, that is an incredibly good point. And it's ironic that I, as a man, was immediately had this critique of being like, oh, this is the male gaze or something, even though I like the movie. But that was sort of my one immediate critique of it that I couldn't sort of get over. So I don't think I've argued with anyone about it, but I think I've enjoyed hearing people's opinions about it, because I do think that's an interesting conversation.
I have two answers. I think that's a great answer, and I agree with it. And then I have two more. One is that I actually really loved the conversation around May December, and because it really felt like, for the girls who get it, you get it, and for the girls who don't. And that was I liked that. I found that to be an interesting and fun conversation. And the people that hated it like really hated it, and then the people that loved it really loved it. And so I found that to be juicy. And then the other one was, of course, I think it's a horrible movie, but we have to say Saltburn. I actually think the conversation around Saltburn is going to be like educational for people. And I think it's like, I've found myself, I've enjoyed hating on it all year long. And I wonder when I'll stop enjoying it, but it's not today.
No, I agree. It's almost, with Saltburn, what always happens is everyone becomes such a hater that then suddenly I have an instinct to be contrarian and be like, it's actually good, but I will stop short of doing that. I do have actually one more answer, which I think you haven't seen yet, but you haven't seen All of Us Strangers, right?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
So All of Us Strangers is actually, maybe even more than Poor Things, is a really fascinating sort of conversation piece, because I think among gay men especially, everyone just like brings their own baggage to it, myself included, obviously. And it's like, either you think it's super profound or you think it is so embarrassing and so problematic, or you think it is like playing into certain stereotypes, or, oh, like it's sort of this outdated thing that all gay men are lonely and fundamentally broken, or it's like this incredibly honest and vulnerable self-portrait of this like tortured older gay, creative person, writer. And I have to say, in myself, I'm almost like paralyzed by the different options of how to think of it, that I genuinely couldn't tell you if I liked the movie or not, which I don't remember like the last time that has happened. You know what I mean? Like there is so much baggage that comes along with any different opinion you can have about it. And I need to, go live in the woods for 3 weeks to come up with what I feel.
Wow.
So that's my other answer. All right. That was part 1 of our Valentine's Day Earnestness Bonanza. Join us next week for part 2.